Hello and welcome to episode 167 of First Geek 411. I'm your host, Cameron Franklin, and with me, as always, is my best man, Chris Nicolay. Chris, how you doing today?
Hello, and I'm here.
Proud of you. Also here, Emma. Emma, how are you doing today?
Not complaining.
Nice.
I'm pretty content with my life right now. So
Very nice. For our major topics tonight, we got Oscars, we got Funimation, we got Marvel news, and then we're going to wrap it all up with the top 3 changes we would make to a bad movie to make it better. Before we jump into that, listeners, as always, you can find us as One Geek 411 on our social media around the web. You can also join our Discord server if you want to chat between shows and shoot an email over to 1stgeek411@gmail.com. You can also check out our website and show notes over at onegeek411.com. You can watch live on Twitch Monday nights, 6:45 Mountain Time over on Twitch. I think I already said Twitch. I don't know. Mistakes might have been made. I don't know. And you can find the videos over on our YouTube where you can like, comment, and subscribe. And then you can also rate and subscribe wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. And then, of course, we also have our Redbubble store if you want any of that First Geek 411 merch. Let's jump into what we've been up to this past week. Emma, why don't you start us off?
I watched the Oscars last night, which is pretty much a given that I'm a film student.
Yeah. I will say, you watching the Oscars feels like one of the most stereotypical things out there.
Yeah.
I feel like it was probably a class assignment.
Yeah.
Even though it wasn't.
Should have been, though.
All of my fellow film students were also watching the Oscars because they could. We also had a entire guessing pool, and I lost horribly, but that's okay. I got 2 categories right. And that's accomplishment enough for me. I am almost done with Serafina. I'm like 30 pages away from the end, and I promptly forgot it at my mom's house. So now I'm going to have to find an ebook somewhere to finish it before Thursday. I finished Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Super excited about that. We're going to talk about that a little later. This week is the last week of classes for the semester for me, which is crazy and insane. Yep. And I can't believe it's the last week of the semester.
Yeah. As someone who's been like working from home for the past year, I have no perception of time anymore in seasons.
Yeah.
And like, so just already being like the end of the semester, like legitimately like blows my mind.
Yeah. Same here. Same here. Yeah, it's just crazy. Just yesterday it was the first day of classes, but anyway, I also played some Horizon Zero Dawn this week.
Nice.
Because it's my diehard game, and I love it to bits and pieces. And so I played some more of that this week, just on my own, and it was a lot of fun. So, yeah, that was my week.
Nice. There are rumors. By rumors, I mean there's my hopes and dreams. That there's going to be a PlayStation State of Play on Thursday, and I want to believe
you'll get a release date
that we'll get something for Horizon Zero Dawn.
I hope.
Yeah, they said it's primarily like the new Ratchet and Clank, but there will be other stuff.
I want a release date for Forbidden West.
Yeah, I just want that one more thing.
I want to know if I can get it on PS4, because if not, I will be sorely disappointed.
I'm guessing that they are going to wait till summer to announce a date. Like typically,
all I really want to know is if I can
and everything.
Yeah.
I'm
all I want to know is if I can play it on PS4, because I would be happy and content as long as I can still play it.
Yeah, since Horizon Zero Dawn is such a big title, I don't think they'll do it in a State of Play. They'll do it in a like dedicated venue.
So.
Chris,
just crushing everyone's dreams. I'm calling it now.
I mean, also Sony technically hasn't confirmed that they're going to be at E3 yet, so there is that.
Right, but I'm not saying it like they'll do it at E3. I'm just saying they'll do it like with it. Like if they're not at E3, they're going to do their own event. That's not just going to be a State of Play.
But then it would be a State of Play. It would just be at the other time.
I mean, they'll probably call it something else. Just saying.
Okay.
I'm just calling it. I'm calling it now. As for me, what I've been up to, so I watched the new Mortal Kombat movie. Not bad. Not bad.
That's like the praise that I've heard from most people.
Like, I really enjoyed it. Like,
It's like
comparatively to like the like old movie adaptation, so much better. It's the right kind of cheesy. I will say that the I guess like prologue, like the intro scene that kind of sets up everything, actually really good. Like, I really enjoyed the opening, and then the rest of the movie was just Mortal Kombat. Just fine.
That's kind of a given.
They did great, and I think the parts where it really shines are the parts where it like is just cheesy and directly from the video game, and it's really enjoyable. I did get all the way caught up with Falcon and Winter Soldier, as like 4 episodes behind. But we'll obviously talk about that. I tried to start, because it was like number 1 on Netflix and everything. I tried to start Shadow and Bone. I don't know. I just couldn't get into it.
yeah.
I'll try again
Deanna's
later.
finishing the first book, and I think once she finishes that, we're gonna start.
I got like 10 minutes into
Which
it,
makes
but then
sense.
got distracted, so I haven't gotten back to it yet.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely something you have to pay attention to.
Yeah.
With a lot that's happening, and yeah, I just could not focus on it.
Yeah. It's like
not that that's a critique.
movies
It's just
and-
it might have just been my mindset at the time. I'm not sure, so we'll give it
Yeah.
another shot eventually.
like non-English movies for me. Like, I like movies that are not in English, but I have to be paying full attention because I have to read the captions.
Right.
Shadow and Bone felt like that for me. Like, I have to be paying attention.
Right, and it's the word. It's an English movie, like or
Yeah.
show,
And
like,
it's in English. So like when
it's like,
it's something
oh.
in English and I'm like, okay, I have to like sit here and pay attention, then I know like it's just gets put off. So
Yeah, on the opposite end, I threw it on just randomly, just like, this looks interesting, sure. From on HBO Max, The Nevers. It's like 2 episodes out right now. Can't recommend it enough. It's like the steampunky late 1800s British.
I've looked at that.
And
Wait, is that on HBO?
yeah.
Okay.
So you can
That
watch
I
it on
added that
HBO
to
Max
my
if you
list
haven't.
because it looked interesting.
It's good. Like, I definitely recommend it. It has like the like mutant kind of themes to it. Like,
oh yeah, no, I did start that.
it's
I'm getting the Nevers and the whatever it's Shadow and Bone mixed up in my head in terms of opening scenes. But yes, I've started that.
like, right,
and
yeah,
I'm
they have
super
that like
interested in it.
like period
Yeah.
feel to them. But
Yeah.
Nevers is. I can't wait to watch more of it. Like, each episode had me. I'm like, oh, I just forgot whatever I was doing and just watched it. Like, it grabbed me. So can't recommend it more. If it's like a steampunk X-Men.
I like the words you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I definitely had a steampunk phase in high school, so I'm loving that already. Like, I kid you not. I went through a whole steampunk phase in high school. Almost entirely steampunk music, but
do you have the hat with the goggles on it?
I wish. Like, I still actually want one of those hats.
I mean, those are some of the purchases I'm getting for when I ride my bike. I'm definitely getting aviator goggles for my bike riding attire, and a few other things. But like, that's just something you gotta have. It's like, I'm not doing like the full shaded helmet face thing.
Yeah.
No, gotta do.
I gotta say, though, steampunk
Gotta do the
fashion
aviator with the bomber jacket. Yeah, it's
is
gonna
just
be my
high up there.
motorcycle fashion.
We were at a local con, and they had a lot of steampunk stuff that was like, it was in the like, I don't know what I would do with this, but it's
But I
cool.
want it.
Like,
Yeah. That's like all of steampunk fashion for me. I don't know when I would wear this or how, but I want it and it looks cool.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, definitely.
And you
if
said it's on
can-
HBO Max?
Yes, HBO Max. If you have HBO Max, definitely check out The Nevers. and tell me what you think, because I'm in love with it right now. And it's like right now I'm annoyed because I can't binge it.
Is that one that releases weekly?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think at this
Yeah.
point, Netflix is the only people that put it all up at once.
Oh yeah.
think,
Okay.
like,
So
all the
And
other-
that's
all the other
mostly just in the
platforms.
US market. Like
Yeah.
Netflix does simulcasts in other regions.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they do it in Canada. I'm pretty sure they do simulcast in Canada. But
Yeah.
yeah, the US are like, yeah, you can wait. Like,
Yeah.
rude.
I definitely started watching it, but I didn't continue mostly because it was Oscars weekend. I of
Well, there's
course,
only
was
2
watching the
episodes, but they
Oscars.
are longer episodes. Like
Excuse you, there's 3.
there's 3 now?
There's a new one up right now.
Gonna have to
Yeah, episode 3 is
know
up.
what I'm doing after we're
Yeah.
done here. But yeah. Get on it. Let me know. I want to talk about it. So good. So good.
Nice. So for me, we finished Falcon and the Winter Soldier as well. We'll do as Emma said, we'll do a little mini review from that later on in the cast. But I shared last week that Monday was the 2 weeks post getting the vaccine for me. And so last week was filled with all sorts of indoor activities with friends that we couldn't do because of COVID before. So a friend came over and we played some Commander, which was a ton of fun, of course. And then we went over to a friend's for a board game night, played some 4-player Happy Little Dinosaurs, which is the game from Unstable Games that I talked about last week, where you're dinosaurs trying to avoid predatory, natural, and emotional disasters.
Emotional disasters.
Yes, the emotional disasters are some of the best cards. So, yeah, you're trying to survive. And then the last dinosaur to survive, or the last dinosaur alive, wins, or the first dinosaur to get to 50 points. And so, a lot of fun. Enjoyed it with 4 players. It played a lot of the way that I expected it to, in the sense that like it's a much slower game. There's a bit more risk when it's not always one or the other player getting the points, but that was a lot of fun.
Yep.
And then we played Ticket to Ride Europe, which was our first time playing that map. So that was a lot of fun. I still think I prefer the US Ticket to Ride map more, but the Europe map adds a lot more complexity.
The Europe map adds complexity because you don't know Europe.
No, but in terms of like the cards
kidding.
you have to play. Yeah.
Right. The thing about playing on
now,
the
if you
Europe
want
map,
complexity for not knowing it, you need to play the China map.
Oh, I bet.
Like the mainland China. Oh man,
There's
that's
just like
rough.
some of the names in the Europe map. You're like, what? Where is this?
Sure.
And you're like, you have to sit there and like scan the entire map, and then everyone knows where you're trying to go. Whereas like the US, you have a general idea of where everything is.
Yeah. And that's how a lot of like the Eastern Europe or Western Europe, I guess, is more of stuff that like I'm familiar with. And then it gets into like the Russia side of things. And I'm like, I don't know what any of this is. But overall, it's pretty cool. Highly recommend. I mean, Ticket to Ride is one of those board games that's been around for
a
the
while.
like, yeah, the board game hobby games. It's one of the oldest ones.
Of the one that gets like new iterations and everything, like, you know, everyone makes like a version of Monopoly. Blech. Like Ticket to Ride, like it changes with each version too. So it plays a little differently.
Yeah.
And, you know, Ticket to Ride's also just a great intro to tabletop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good first game and
very straightforward.
Yeah, especially the US map. That like it's the most like streamlined version of the game.
One thing I do in the European one is I hoard locomotives.
You hoard what?
I hoard the wild cards.
Oh, okay.
Just to see if I can win only playing those for the most part.
We had actually discussed how like it's always super confusing when people or the rules refer to them as locomotives.
Right.
And not wild cards.
Right. Well, it's because like in the European one, like they call it locomotive because it's required. You have to specifically use it for some of the spots. So it was great because I was like, if it was available on the mat, I took the one, and then if it wasn't, then I did random. In which case, I did get other colors, but that was fine. And I still ended up getting like second. I was like, oh,
But if you're not first, you're last,
just
Chris.
played the entire game that way. Yeah, but I put a restriction on myself. And I screwed a lot of people over. It was great. It's my favorite thing. It's like, well, Chris has all the wild cards, so I can't do this.
You just play with your hand face up. Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm just like, how many do you think I got? I've got 8.
I could go anywhere.
I can do whatever I want. And you can't do the one thing you're trying to do. Got him.
Let's see. And then the last thing for me is that yesterday, I got to participate in some of Comics and Lacrosse's charity stream. So big shout out to them for like blowing past their fundraising goals. They did a 12-hour stream. And so I got to hop in some at the end for Among Us. And then I brought honor to our podcast by winning trivia.
Nice. Good for you.
And by me, I mean my team, and I contributed on like 2 questions. But
nonetheless.
Yeah.
I went to trivia like a few weeks ago here locally. And I got so annoyed. I was like, I'm never coming to trivia again. It was all MLB trivia. There's like 2 to 3 questions of MLB trivia every round. I'm like, come on. And then I let the podcast down because I couldn't remember that William Shatner had turned 90.
Come on.
I just couldn't think of his name. I knew exactly who it was. It was like Captain Kirk. And then they're throwing out Patrick Stewart. I'm like, no, that's Picard. He's like 80. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and Chunk says that Comics and Lacrosse, they met their goal in the first 15 minutes of the stream.
Dang.
So that's awesome for them. Again, big congratulations to Comics and Lacrosse. And
hopefully we'll be successful when we do our charity stream.
Hashtag soon. Hashtag,
Hashtag.
Not actually planned, but
not planned, but
hopeful.
Eventually.
Nothing.
One day.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's what I've been up to. So I guess from there we can go on and get into our discussion topics. Emma, what do you got for us?
I've got a list because I didn't have any news announcements or things like that for this week. And since it was the Oscars, I came up with a little list of movies from the Oscars that I would recommend to people that consists of 5 movies, just to narrow down that lengthy list for everyone, to assist you all. But forewarning, this is my personal opinion. Take it or leave it as you will.
Leave it.
So for that's fine.
Just kidding.
I won't be hurt. For Oscar nominations that I would or winners that I would highly recommend people see. My first and highest pick would be The Father. Your lovely Anthony Hopkins is in it, and it is a great example of an unreliable narrator in a movie that's not a scary movie. It's very sad, but also very heartwarming. So
he won Best Actor for that, right?
Yep. Best Actor for The Father, and he very much deserved it. One of his best performances in his very lengthy career.
That's the movie where he has Alzheimer's, right? And
yes,
the narrative is inconsistent because it's actually like kind of his perspective, and as things change, you're not sure what time frame or what's being combined. And I've heard really good things about this movie.
It's a great example of an unreliable narrator where it is clear that the person experiencing the storyline is unstable. And so it's a very good look into what the experiences of Alzheimer's might be, where you don't like what it might mean when you don't recognize your own child or don't remember events in the right order. And it's heartwarming and very sad at the same time. But yeah, it was well made and I would highly recommend it. Another nomination that won, I think, original or adapted storyline that I would highly recommend is Minari. It's about a Korean family who moves to a little plot of land in the US, and then their grandmother comes to live with them. And it's just this family's life trying to um, survive and have an income. And the dad wants to start a farm, and um, the boy has a heart murmur, and it's like they're constantly telling him to not run around because whatever. And it's just this slice of life movie that's very also heartwarming, but in a more cheerful sense. Um, and it supports and brings to light a lot more of those Asian Korean filmmakers, which I love as well. Um, and my last recommendation
We've made our
for
stance on
highly
representation well
yes,
known. So
please
Plot twist. We also
more
got
of it.
we got some other representation plots.
We want more of that. My last recommendation for please watch is a documentary called My Octopus Teacher. You can find it on Netflix. It's a great example of my undergrad degree in human animal interactions. And it's just this guy who befriends an octopus. He's a diver who goes out and befriends an octopus. And
yep. I was gonna say this is the most
like,
Emma sounding movie ever.
it is like
So I'm gonna be
it
like
is.
real. I assumed it was like a metaphor.
No, like
I
literally.
did not realize that
It's
it
this
like
guy
was
in South
actually
Africa
yeah.
who like it's just a real life story of him going to befriend an octopus completely on accident. And it's something that I would have loved to make and be a part of. So
It's her life
those are
goal
my
now.
yeah my three recommendations for Oscar nominations / winners: The Father, Minari, and My Octopus Teacher. Um, for Oscar movies that I want to watch is The Sound of Metal. Sounds fascinating. It's about a metal drummer who learns he's losing his hearing, and it's just his struggle with this health issue that comes into conflict with his love. It won the Oscar for Best Sound Design, so I'm super interested in that. And my last, I wouldn't say it's a recommendation, but um, Nomadland, which won Best Movie, I found rather boring and I stopped watching halfway through. That is my own personal opinion. I felt it lacked in story and was very artsy. Doesn't mean it was a bad movie, but that's just my own personal opinion. You can watch it if you want to. You can avoid it altogether. Um, Basically, a woman who just lives the van life and drives around the U.S. living the van life. Take it or leave it. It's probably something I would finish watching if I wanted to watch something while I was folding laundry. But I wouldn't necessarily like sit down and watch it while doing nothing else. It felt very bland to me. And I don't mind slow stories, slow movies. But this one felt like it was lacking in a lot of areas. So there's my review of the Oscars and some of my recommendations and thoughts, and that's what I have for y'all this week.
Yep. I want to just add. I have a question for you, but
Yeah.
tying in with No Man's Land, Chloe Zhao
Yes,
was
that
the
was one thing I did like.
yeah. Who was that? I didn't realize that that was the movie she had directed until I was like grabbing. But she became the second woman to win Best Director. It was
That's
also
one thing I don't mind.
yeah, and
Like,
I guess it was
I'm fine with that.
and I guess it was also the first year that two women were nominated for Best Director. Is from what I've read.
Great.
Yeah, that's
Fabulous.
awesome.
I am loving it. I
And
remember the first time, the first woman who won.
Catherine Bigelow.
For
Yeah.
Hurt Locker, yeah. I remember watching it that year. And it basically made me cry. Like, I hadn't seen the movie, but I was just like, this is the first time a woman has ever won one of the major awards at the Oscars. And it was just, it killed me, basically.
Mhm.
And it was long before I even knew I wanted to go into film production in any way, shape, or form. So it just, I remember that. So like, I'm still like fine with the fact, like, even though I didn't like No Man's Land, I'm like, great. a woman is winning the best director.
Mhm.
Like, we need more of that. So,
And I think I saw, this might not be the exact, but I think I saw that she's also like only the third Asian person, or maybe it's Chinese specifically, person to win Best Director. I could be wrong there.
that would make sense. I mean, this year we had the first Muslim nominated for Best Actor. And so there's been a lot of firsts in the last 5 to 10 years in terms of um, POC and underrepresented groups being nominated or winning um, awards at the Oscars. Um, in other words, anyone who's not a white male.
Yeah.
um, to, I mean, no discredit against white males. It's just they over dominate in many areas of the field.
Yeah,
But
Cameron.
I mean, I'm not
just
disagreeing. Like,
yeah.
like
Um,
you're speaking facts. So
so it is very exciting to see all of these things happening. But at the same time, I'm also sitting here going, we should not be having all these firsts in this decade. Like, these should have all been things that were happening years ago.
Mhm.
Like, but I mean, any progress is better than none. So
Mhm.
I can't really complain in the grand scheme of things.
I say let's just abolish the Oscars in the Academy.
I mean, if you want the honest truth, a good part of the Oscars is rigged.
Yeah.
So I mostly watch it to criticize people's outfits and find the ones that I would actually wear if I ended up going to the Oscars.
One of my mom's friends gets to vote. He's a part of the Academy.
Nice.
Oh, that's right. I remember us talking about that when I visited you.
Yeah, because like there's all those random DVDs that are
Mhm.
for your consideration DVDs that he'd give my mom to watch so she had movies. But they were all the copies of the movies that were up for nominations those years, and
Nice.
it was a cool thing.
And then last thing I want to say about Chloe Zhao is that she's also apparently directing the Eternals.
Yeah.
One of the upcoming MCU projects for later this year. I think it's the November
Exciting.
release. And so, like, obviously that's probably already done. Like, from
Probably.
like,
See, I like her. I just didn't like the movie. But yes. And I'm excited about that.
You just don't want to live in a van.
Yeah, it's just the van life. That's
I don't want to
It
live
doesn't
in a
appeal.
van down by the river.
I do. What? I'm just kidding. Oh, how things have changed since.
Yeah, oh, how the turntables.
Do you
But
want to?
we did that as a skit when I was a high school leader for Young Life. We had like an SNL night, and I was the angsty teenage daughter in that skit, and it was probably one of the best things I had ever been a part of.
Oh, Chris Farley, what a great!
Do you
One
want
of the
to live
greats.
in a van down by the river?
Now all us millennials are like, yeah,
Tiny
Absolutely.
home.
Sounds better than my current living situation. No.
can't afford a house,
Roommate
so why
picture.
not?
And then my question for you, Emma, as your first Oscars in film school, was watching it this year any different than previous years for you?
I mean, in many ways, yes, but mostly because it was a COVID year. Like, a lot of the things that they did this year were directly correlated to the fact that it was COVID. But also in other ways, yes, because I intentionally watched some of the movies in prep for the Oscars with the knowledge that and stuff that I've been learning. So, like, The Father and Minari, I would not have watched under like normal circumstances. I wouldn't have looked at them and gone, "Oh, that sounds interesting. I'll watch that." Like, but I went, like, now that I am in film school, I'm gonna watch some of these movies and try and sort of figure out why they were nominated to begin with. And within the context of what I've been learning at school, I could easily pick out like The Father is a great example of a well done, unreliable narrator who wants to express what it's like to experience Alzheimer's, or Minari of just a slice of life of this immigrant family who just wants to make it for themselves and their kids. Um, so it was fun to try and figure out why things were nominated. But also on the other sort of the flip side of that, it became very easy to predict what movies would win.
You kind of get in the same mindset, that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
like I had seen enough of the movies in each category that I could just go like, okay, this one's gonna win, that one's gonna win, that one's definitely not gonna win. Like I see why it was nominated, but you can just chuck it out right now. It's not gonna beat whatever other, and that's not just because of whatever social media was saying, but you just sort of were. I was able to sort of pick out their the patterns for what things have won over time, and been able to sort of predict. You have more information to predict what things the Academy preferred over others. So yes and no, because I also like no, because I also just have always liked to predict what movies would win and what wouldn't. So yeah.
Nice. Listeners, as always, hit Emma up for those movie recs.
Yeah.
Over in
always.
our Discord.
Give me a genre and I'll pick a movie from that genre that I think you might like, or at least one that I liked.
Chris, what do you got for us?
So, starting us off, My Hero Academia, The Strongest Hero, which is a mobile game, is getting a global release this year. It did originally release last December in Japan. But Strongest Hero is a mobile open world action RPG coming to iOS and Android devices this spring. So, next few months, I guess.
Yeah, we're like spring ends in like 2 months, right?
Right? Yeah, I was like, interesting. And
I thought
looks
that
interesting.
game. Yeah, I thought that game looked really cool. As someone who didn't know that it was already out until literally you said that, I thought that game looked really cool. And then it was like for mobile, and I was like, oh,
right?
Okay, well, it's been fun.
Like I think it has potential, especially with mobile platforms kind of advancing. Because of the game type, I wouldn't play it on like my phone. It's definitely something I'd consider on on my tablet.
You get that bigger screen.
Get the bigger screen, just get to see a little more. It's like, an open world RPG on your phone just doesn't appeal to me.
Yeah.
But your tablet, absolutely. So it's definitely something I'll be looking into, and I'll let you guys know what I think. It does feature a full story campaign. Allows you to build your own teams, and they do have plans to release a PvP mode. Don't know what that's going to look like for this game. I'm not sure if this is a gacha game or what, or how this necessarily looks, but from what I've heard, from what I've seen, it doesn't look like it's going to be a gacha game.
I would love it if this would come to Switch or something.
Right. That's the platform.
Or, now that I have a PC that can actually handle games released in the past decade, like PC.
But you can emulate Android on your PC and then play it on the emulator.
This is true.
You got options. There are things you can do. But yeah, I'm kind of excited for this. I'm definitely looking forward to checking this out when it comes out. From the sounds of it, you get to play through some of the iconic moments from the actual series. And it is completely voice acted from the original cast. For the dubbed version, obviously, I should mention. I'm not sure if you. I think you could probably have the settings and dub and sub it if you want to listen to the original Japanese voice cast, um, because that contrast gets me every time. Because I think I originally watched or I accidentally bought the dubbed version of the movie, and it threw me off. Still good.
So
Just
your mistake is my normal.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of the things I don't mind dubbed. You know, I'm not one of those people. It's just that subbed is more accessible. Like I get to watch
More
it,
common.
but go. It's not something you can go back and forth between. The voice acting is so different between the two, and the voices are just in general different. And I'm like, that's not what you sound like, All Might. Stop it. Also in news this week, it was announced Emilia Clarke is making her foyer into a new profession. / she is producing and writing a comic book
Nice.
series. Yeah, so she's obviously Queen Daenerys Targaryen. But sorry, I lost my link here.
Long may she reign.
You mean for like the 3 seconds until?
Yeah. Also, she's dead.
Yeah.
Plot twist.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. And what is some of the worst character development ever?
I don't know. I only finished season 1, so
Good.
at this point, I'm just like, any spoilers I get, I deserve.
But she's the story is called Mom or Mother of Madness, which is right up her alley.
Yeah.
And I guess it's gonna tell the story of possibly like a superhero fighting human trafficking. But yeah. So I'm looking forward to see what this has. The initial art looks very interesting, but this is definitely something I'm going to support. And just kind of a random transition from
Not the worst one in the world, though.
Definitely
not. Gonna lie.
Definitely not. Do you think she's probably going to star as Mom when they do the movie adaptation, right?
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And then kind of a little piece of dongle news here. Kind of tech news. Just regarding kind of the automotive industry. Toyota is announcing plans to purchase Lyft's autonomous car division for $550 million.
I could pay my tuition with that amount and then some.
I mean, you can, with a fraction of that, you can pay your tuition and then some. And also get like all professional gear so you can just have your own studio. I mean,
plus employees for at least 10 years.
Exactly. But I don't know. We haven't seen, so Toyota has kind of been silent the last few years. I mean, they were the first kind of to the hybrid market with the Prius, but they haven't done much. They haven't really like pushed into the electric car market or anything. But yeah, this last week they kind of announced that they are now, this is a big investment into at least the autonomous vehicle market. And then also they announced that they are working on hydrogen combustion engines for their race cars. Which is something we haven't actually seen a lot of in terms of alternate fuel sources, we've seen like hydrogen fuel cells. Compressed natural gas is still a thing in some areas. But I've since I was in high school, in terms of the next thing, I've always been a fan of hydrogen combustion. Granted, converting or extracting hydrogen is costly and whatever, but hydrogen's combustion process is you get a lot of power when you burn hydrogen, for one, and then your byproduct's water, which is super cool. But I'm excited to see what they do with that. Obviously, that's not going to be something we see for common cars. It is a race division, but still super cool.
There's hydrogen and helium and lithium, beryllium, foreign carbon everywhere, nitrogen all through the air. I memorized that song for high school chemistry because we had to know periodic tables. So whenever I hear hydrogen, I just start singing that in my head.
Me and I think it was 7th grade. Me and a couple friends had a competition to see who can list off just by at least letters, list off the periodic table of elements the fastest. Because we were nerds.
Nothing wrong with that.
Complete nerds.
Definitely didn't win that. Although I was really good at listing off the countries of Europe the fastest. Countries and capitals. Although that's changed since then, so I don't know them all anymore. But yeah.
There's an updated country song. There was the Looney Tunes song or whatever, and the guy who sung that made an updated version.
You mean the Animaniacs?
Animaniacs. I didn't watch a lot of TV as a kid.
I mean, they are a offshoot of the Looney Tunes.
But there's apparently an updated version now with the current countries of the world.
I think they did that with the reboot, didn't they? Is when they
don't know.
Or I don't know. But
asking the wrong person.
But yeah, cool things happening.
I'm a TV production, not animation student.
Just had to. I know it's not like the geekiest news, but I had to talk about Toyota's new stuff because something to think of. Especially like autonomous cars is a big deal. I'm
all in.
Especially following the big wreck that Tesla had.
Yeah.
But that's what you get for trying to skirt the rules.
Yep. So for me, for this week, we're going all Marvel, and so last week it didn't get brought up in the show, but I wanted to give a shout out to the fact that we got a Shang-Chi trailer last week, and it looks amazing.
I'm ready for it.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Obviously, to go back to what we talked about earlier, some great representation, and then
also
go ahead.
Speaking of representation, I got my trio for next semester, so the people I'll be making my projects with, and one of them is from, well, his family's from China, and the other is from Thailand. So I'm super excited to work with them, because they're both wonderful people, and I'm excited to help them make their voices heard.
Nice. What does it say about
the same mental connection in my head, but Shang-Chi. Back to you, Cameron.
Oh, well, yeah. So what I was thinking is, I think it's really cool that we're going to get a like origin story for a character that like people don't know about. Like this is the first like origin story for like a character that wasn't introduced elsewhere.
Yeah.
I guess since Captain Marvel, right?
And actually, this is like one of the most in the new phase. This is one of the most important movies for setting up the rest of the phase, because it gives you your kind of almost kind of big bad, but your kind of new thing. Like, so obviously we had the Infinity Stones, but now we have the 10 rings as the possible kind of
potential
weapon overarching thing. And so I'm really excited for this.
Yeah. I remember telling someone about this next phase and then just going, wait, isn't the MCU over now? I just went, oh boy.
No. New phase.
Oh boy, you've got a lot coming for you, my friend. Not in the slightest.
Just new. Things have changed.
Marvel just decided they were done making money.
Yeah. They just decided that they were too rich and didn't need any more. They decided to break my dreams.
But yeah, so I wanted to give that a shout out. And then, as we all mentioned up at the top, we finished watching Falcon and Winter Soldier. And so in this section, we're going to try to do a little mini review, and then we'll have a piece of news. And so let's do our best to keep it spoiler free, or as like not direct spoilers as possible. There's only so much we can do with the news story that's going to be coming after this, but
yeah.
But yeah. So with that, what are each of your like overall thoughts about the series as a whole?
I love Sam's suit. It felt very, very Marvel, especially in coming post WandaVision. But it's not necessarily a bad thing because those are both characters that play into that more generic Marvel sort of formula.
It's
because
very
they're both
blatant superhero.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very
Very.
blatant superhero.
Whereas like Captain America's original or suits like were more like, yeah, they had the color scheme, but they looked more tactile, more, you know,
yeah,
and they just changed the colors and made it more like, you know, this is, you know, so he's like making it a little more iconic. Whereas this is leaning heavy into that, like in your face, I'm a superhero,
yeah,
like aesthetic, and I kind of like it for the way they're treating his character.
absolutely.
It's like to Emma's point, like even like as a whole, like this series feels like all the people that complained about WandaVision not being MCU enough. Like I feel like this is like the most MCU show that we could get
You happy now?
in
You
all
got your
the in all the good
MCU?
ways. Like again,
Yeah,
not as a complaint, but
yeah,
like it
yeah,
just feels like super like what is it? Superheroes. Who are they fighting? Bad guys.
yeah. Who want to revolutionize the world.
Right.
And like it very much fits the characters of Sam and Bucky. Like give it Bucky's storyline and history. Whereas like WandaVision, the style of WandaVision fit
Yeah.
Wanda and Vision. And this fit the characters of Sam and Bucky in much the same way. Also, I just greatly appreciate their friendship.
Yep.
Throughout the whole thing. Like,
They're colleagues.
well, colleagues. Why didn't you use the metal arm? Because I'm right-handed. I don't think about it often.
There, I think this is also was a really important series to do, especially for Sam.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the themes that he's had to deal with, and especially with that distrust in dealing with kind of the BLM themes, what it means to be black and in America, and things like that. And they did a really good job at keeping that as an undertone without being kind of preachy about it.
Yeah.
Especially with the conflict with like the previous generation and the concepts of no self-respecting person would want to like, or black person would want to take that up because of everything that we've been through. Whereas, and then he kind of twists that and saying, you know, he was a great person. Like previous Captain America was a great person, and this is
blonde hair, blue eyes.
Opportunity to right. This is an opportunity to really enact some change, and that's also why I think that the flashiness of his uniform, I guess, is important because he's attracting a lot more media attention as a result. And I think that's going to be kind of a theme moving forward.
Something I also greatly appreciate about that is the outfit alone also stays true to the comics, which can also play into that in many ways of just staying true to, like, Sam at some point made the comment of my ancestors built up this country and I'm gonna fight for this country because of that. Like, I don't know, but
I'll say overall for me, and Anna Reel in chat said, "I love all the identity themes in Falcon and the Winter Soldier." And I think that that's the thing that I liked the most, that you see from all of the main characters, you see these tie-ins. And I think that in a lot of ways, the most like overt one, of course, is Falcon and the Winter Soldiers. But like
What? Like they're the
plot
main...
twist.
Yeah, don't say.
You're saying the
like,
series was emphasized on them?
Right. It turns out the name of the show explains the show, just like my octopus teacher.
Yeah,
And so
literally.
So yeah, so I just want to say like even getting into them specifically, to what, I mean, again, echoing what y'all previously said, I liked how overt the show was with those identity themes for Falcon, that it did not shy away or try to just be like, everything's going to be great now. And I think that that's really cool. And I really liked, one of my things going into the series was I was very curious if we were going to deal with the public not accepting him as Captain America. And I think it's very interesting that really isn't the story that we got for the most part, but it was a lot more about his struggle with, am I Captain America? And then what does that mean if the world is ready for a Black Captain America? I thought that was a very like well told story, and going back to like what Chris said earlier about the previous generation and things like that, how that all's tied together. And then I really liked what they did with Bucky, and kind of having him like in almost like a minor way, especially compared to WandaVision, like, but still having Bucky dealing with that trauma. Like, yeah. And we see him going to counseling. We see like kind of something that WandaVision probably, or Wanda probably could have used instead of,
therapy.
Yeah, instead of like, taking a town over. But I really liked that. And I think that it was really cool to see that progression of his character, of as he opens up to Sam, he's opening up more towards that change as a whole. And then, yeah, I liked what they did with the villains pretty much up until the end, when they kind of just then became, yep, we're the bad guys.
Yeah.
For the, I want to call them taskmasters, but that's obviously not correct.
The flag
smashers. Thank you. The flag smashers, where like I really feel like for the first like 4 episodes, they were a much more engaging group of bad guys.
And yeah, I totally agree, because when you look at their sort of cause, it's super emphasized in the first 4 episodes. Mm-hmm. They just want the world to function in much the similar way that it had during the 5 years of the blink, which obviously we don't have the biggest insight into that because we don't have that material. Mm-hmm. And then it just flipped and turned into a vendetta, if you will. But like, I was like, okay, that is a cause I can understand. Mm-hmm. The way you're going about it sucks in many regards.
And then it kind of just gets
like,
worse.
Like that's the conflicts between, right. Their side and obviously, Bucky and Falcon's, and Sam's. But I mean, like, yeah, like one thing like they were supposed to be kind of pointing out, which I don't think they did enough with, is that the superhuman serum or whatever, super soldier serum, has negative side effects for the most of the people. Like they even pointed out, and they talk about that early on, but we never really, with the exception of name person
Zemo.
No.
John.
Yeah.
John Walker.
Like we don't see like, and I think that's something they could have done a little more to emphasize that Carly isn't necessarily the most rational. Like part of this is due to the serum like failing her.
Yeah.
And that's something they could have emphasized a little more.
And yeah, they did mention like when there was a whole part where Sam and Bucky go to meet the war vet whose name I'm forgetting.
Isaiah.
Isaiah, um, who was talking about how like he went through all this torture essentially. Anyway, don't want to give away spoilers, but there was this whole piece with that they could have used, they could have played into to emphasize what how the serum was impacting Carly. They could have easily made a connection between Isaiah and Carly, but they just sort of missed that link that could have helped support the later episodes of Carly's choices.
Yeah, and I think they like. Now, granted, I also am maybe mixing up what I've seen in memes versus what was in the or what was in previous movies. Because like I know in the first Captain America, one of the big points is that the serum makes your worst parts worse and your best parts better. And like, so that idea that like it just basically magnifies who you are. And that's why Steve Rogers
was a good selection.
Yeah, because he wasn't, going back to Captain America, the movie, he wasn't he was a good soldier or a good man, not a good soldier. And that's what the serum magnified. Yeah, whereas that was something John Walker is the opposite.
Yeah, that's something they could have repeated because it's been long enough since the first Captain America that like obviously we're not gonna comb through all 20 something movies every single time a new series comes out unless you literally have the time and insanity to do that. So like they're given the expanse of the franchise, like they had this whole bit with the museum, the Captain America museum, where they could have had like a shot of Isaiah watching this clip on like one of the displays of like it enhances your best features and your worst features. Where they could have just like dropped that in. And that could have helped even of just using stuff they already had in their resources in the mythos of the serum to help like emphasize this, even just the second half of this is where looking at going like the bad guys are feeling weak here in terms of like literal from the audience's perspective. Here's ways we can support and show that they're going crazy, if you will.
Whereas I think we could just get a lot of that through John Walker.
Yeah.
Like he's a jerk. He like also in the least plot twist, he takes the super soldier serum that he picks up. Like
no one was surprised by that.
Yeah. And then like he goes from being a jerk to being like a bigger jerk. Like I mean also like a murderer, but like a bigger jerk. And it's one of those that like they're like to exactly what you were saying, Emma. I think there's certain points of it that this is the most tell don't show series.
Yeah.
Then there's other parts of it that are
which is a huge thing in film.
Yeah.
You don't want to like if you have too much dialogue, chances are you have too much dialogue.
Yeah.
Cut it all out and turn it into a scenery thing.
Right.
And this was one of those shows. Cut out the dialogue, turn it into scenery when someone's entering, and you're going to be so much better off.
Yeah. So what I was saying is like, there's some of those things that are so tell don't show. Then there's all these other things that like the Steve Rogers is a good man, not a good soldier. And all the times that Sam is referred to as a good man. There's or that John Walker is referred to as a good soldier. And then you mentioned the left-handed, right-handed thing earlier. Yeah. A bunch of people have dug through a bunch of Bucky's old appearances, and he's almost always holding a weapon in his left hand when he's acting as the Winter Soldier. But when he's acting as himself, he's holding it in his right hand. And like, there's all those really cool show don't tell.
Yeah.
And then the other end of it is just these other things. But I just think it's super interesting. It's so deep. It seems almost like polar opposites.
Filmmakers will literally go to that extent.
Yeah.
of switching which hands a character holds something in based on their mental state.
Yeah.
I guarantee you that was totally intentional.
Mhm.
And I love it.
Yeah. Let's see. I think we kind of just hit on all of the questions that I had put in for us. I have something I want to say, but it's a super spoiler, and so I'm not going to go into it. But yeah. So those were all thoughts on Falcon and the Winter Soldier, our little mini review. Listeners, as always, let us know what you think. You can do that in their social medias that we talked about above, and that will hit on at the end. But now that we have talked about that, it was announced way too close to the finale of Falcon and Winter Soldier, if you ask me. But Captain America 4 has been announced to be in development with the showrunner.
It's at least 2 years out.
Oh yeah, like we're probably looking at an early Phase 5 movie.
Yeah, by in development they mean the script is in its very earliest drafts.
Yeah,
and that's exciting.
Basically, all we know is that Malcolm Spellman is going to be writing the script, along with the Falcon staff writer Dallin Musson, Musson. There's basically no other details about it right now. But we did get that announcement. And I'm super excited. One of the things that I think the MCU has done really well is that it has made me care about Captain America, who is one of my least favorite characters. And then here I already cared about Sam. He is now also Captain America. And like they're making me care about him again.
He's a twofer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited about this. Pure speculation. Any ideas of what, and again, I try to keeping it relatively spoiler free for Falcon and Winter Soldier, but is there anything that you would really like to see with him taking over as Captain America for a feature film?
More flying.
More flying.
I mean, it's kind of hard at this stage to really answer that because we're in like Infinity Stones has ended and we don't have much given the way that the MCU has worked over the past 13 years. We don't know what we're going into. We know that this will be coming out in the midst of whatever next big story they're telling. And it will likely play into that. I would love to see more flying through windows with his shield.
With the shield.
That would be cool. But I'm I don't know, because it's a lot of it's going to depend on how I want it to fit into whatever the next big storyline is. But I don't know what that is. Do I want to see him interact with Shang-Chi or, Captain Marvel or whoever? I don't know, because I don't know what's going to be happening in the next 2 years.
I want more of the fishing boat.
More of the fishing boat?
Yeah.
In chat, Deanna says, just being a decent American.
Yeah, let's just, instead of making it a superhero movie, it's just him in the fishing boat. It's a drama.
Yeah. I'll say for me, again,
one man
pure speculation with us not really knowing about, because as we said, this is probably an early Phase 5 movie, just based on what we know so far. And so if that's the case, and I had to guess, I think that this will tie into whatever is going to happen in Armor Wars, which is going to star Rhodey as War Machine. And so if I had to guess, I think that might be the big thing of whatever happens there. It's dealing with the fallout of someone getting an Iron Man suit that shouldn't, that kind of thing. Or of that type of tech getting out. Whether directly in the sense that there's a villain that has that, or indirectly in the sense that this tech is now readily
I did read
accessible.
a thing recently that was interesting. That was um, at this point in the world's existence, Wakanda has essentially become the next Tony Stark in terms of providing technology
Mhm.
to this world of characters. So that could also play into it somehow of
Mhm.
especially especially in terms of where Wakanda and Black Panther came in the whole timeline. It was relatively late in the Infinity Stones saga. Um, so I can see them playing a bigger role in um, even just trying to recon all of this Iron Man equipment
Mhm.
post Tony Stark's death because they understand the repercussions of what that equipment can do, and it's a big concern of theirs.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Chris, any ideas on your part?
they got they go to get Steve back from the moon.
Hey,
Nope.
they got to
We
do
can.
it. We all know
They
Steve
got to
is
do
on the
it.
moon.
Isn't he on the moon? I just love that that's a thing in the universe now. Yes, and we're
Yes.
going to leave him there, along with what's his face from that one Netflix show about the adopted kids that I can't think of.
Netflix show about adopted kids. Oh,
Umbrella
Umbrella
Academy.
Academy. Okay.
That also had a guy go to the moon. He was just up there hanging with the guy on the moon.
Just mind his own business.
They're
Uh,
just buds. Two
so
guys on the moon.
let's get ready for our top 3 list. But before we get into it, we do have some announcements. This Thursday, we'll have our book club on Serafina right here, 6:45 Mountain Time. So hope everyone can be back for that. And then I will be out next week, but Anna Reel will be back joining us or joining
She's actually
y'all.
hosting.
And so Anna is now in charge
You better be
of
ready.
the podcast. So good luck, Anna. We believe in you. And so um, she says, woot woot. Oh, wait, what?
Nope, you already agreed. Woot woot is an agreement.
Yeah. And so let's get into our top 3 list. We are talking about changes you would make to a bad movie to make it better. Chat, if you want to drop any ideas as we go, feel free and we'll round into those around back. Come back to those. I don't know where I was going with that. Circle back. There we go. We'll circle back to those at the end. And so, as always, the first rule of top threes is that there's no rules. So if you wanted to completely overhaul a movie, you do you. If you wanted to just make a small change or things like that, whatever you want. And so, Emma, as I assume the most educated one of us in this matter, what do you got?
I would redo the entirety of Aragon, and I would select Christopher Paolini himself to be an executive producer, or its producer of some sort, or at least a script supervisor, so that he has say in what does and does not go into the script, and how the script is done, and how the character design is done. And I would just hire the man himself to have a large pertinent say on things because he is the man and the visionary. And I would just redo the entire movie and not give dragons feathers because that is a dumb idea.
I was okay with it. I was okay with the design aspects in Aragon, but definitely stick closer to consult the source material.
Yeah,
Not hard.
that's why
Plot
I would
twist.
hire
That
the
idea might be
author
coming back later
itself.
on.
I feel like that's going to
why
be my
I would-
overall theme for everything I talk about tonight.
That is, yeah, sticking close to the source material also is a matter of one of my other ones. But in other words, I would overhaul the entire movie and I would hire the author to assist on the screenplay and the script because we've seen in the past with shows and movies like Good Omens that when you have an author who created that content work on that project in some large capacity, that material does considerably better because it just focuses on what the source material is and turns it into a visual aspect. And it, in terms of rating and reviews, it does so much better than when whoever it is who makes it just does what they will with it and goes off the rails. So that's my number one.
Chris, what do you got?
Let's talk about The Hobbit. I'm not saying it's bad. It's like definitely doesn't necessarily have to fall on that. A couple things I would do. Let's try not to emphasize 3D. I mean, yeah, 3D is cool, but
a 5-page battle into 2 movies. Don't do it.
I don't think there is a 5-page battle in Lord of the Rings or in The Hobbit.
It's 2-page battle.
No, like a minimum of
half a page
of 20. No, their battles are longer. I'm saying that the way that Tolkien writes, they're longer than 5-page battles. But yeah, they overdid 3D. I mean, I thought it was going to be done tastefully, and they started off fine in the first one, and then second and third, way overdone. It was cool that they were playing with new technology. It was one of the first movies done with storyboards and everything, 3D from start to finish. Cool, that's fine. But they did the typical try to like screen pop you 3D effects and stuff, and just doesn't do it for me. Also, again, consult the source material. I understand like consulting the source material and like the appendices and stuff, and including things that may not have been in existence at the time of The Hobbit, but we would know we're there. But and also don't make a female character just for an awkward love trope.
A good rule in filmmaking as a whole.
Yeah. Just in general.
Like it turns out.
Just, you're right.
Just don't.
Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit is lacking like front and center female characters. Sure. Go ahead and create one. But don't try to twist them into this weird love trope, because that was awkward and it definitely breaks away from any Lord of the Rings lore. Yeah, that's my first one.
Okay. I'm getting a big one out of the way for me. And it already got referenced in chat. I would like to remind everyone there is no movie in Ba Sing Se. But if there was a movie hypothetically based on The Last Airbender or Avatar: The Last Airbender, in chat, Chunk said don't have M. Night Shyamalan direct it. Again, hypothetically. But like, I feel like I could forgive a lot of that if the bending in the movie was actually cool. Like that's like, of all of the complaints that I could make, I think that is like that one thing that like, you know what, spend a bit more money on that special effects budget and make bending look cool. Like then at least, like as bad as the story is told, at least it would be visually interesting.
Yeah.
Or stick to the original format. Like you didn't have to do a live action adaptation. You could have just given us a feature length Avatar movie.
Yeah. Also would have been cool.
Yeah.
Give us like an animated series.
There's a lot of movies out there, like
I'll follow up from the animated series,
where the stories are not the best, but the visuals are strong enough that it's still fun to watch because it's just visually nice.
Right. And that's like kind of my thing, and like I don't think that would have taken it from being an awful movie to even a decent movie. But it at least would have been something. And then of course, as we've said, consult the source material. But I feel like at this point, people reading or watching
also
the previous stuff, if they're not Dave Filoni, is a bit out there.
Throwing that one out there for that movie as well.
For what?
Stop the whitewashing.
Oh, that too.
Yeah. Please.
But also a good general Hollywood thing.
Yep. Just in general, but
because that as a movie has really cool character design in terms of like costuming and things like that. So I feel like I could do like, a 40-minute discussion on this, but we're going to go ahead and pass back to Emma before I soapbox for the and then cut into all the rest of the time. So
I'm going to steal a line from you then, because this is another one I could soapbox. There is no movie on Mount Olympus in that Percy Jackson was just a huge disappointment to middle school me. And I was so mad because I was a Percy Jackson kid because I wasn't allowed to read Harry Potter, so I went to Percy Jackson instead. And they just veered very much away from the source material. And it was also visually iffy at best. And it's very similar to Aragon. And just please stay close to the source material. You're going to get more people seeing it and reading the books and wanting another movie as a result, because they want to see the words on the paper become pixels on a screen. They don't want your own rendition of it. They want what's on the paper. And it is not whatever lightning bolts being hidden away. They want to see a Fawn and a half-blood Poseidon kid do their own thing. So that's my number 2. I was a big Percy Jackson kid, and the movie was just probably the first time I was ever seriously disappointed by a movie. So
my next one is Wonder Woman 1984. Yeah. First of all, get rid of the Panther girl. I don't know what her deal was. Like, she's just like inconsequential throughout the entire movie. Like, way too much screen time was wasted. Or tweak the script to make her a bigger deal. Also, I don't know. I just better villain. Lots of things I would ultimately change. I don't know. I think they thought it was a good idea because Captain Marvel did kind of this nostalgia period thing with throwing things out there. They probably could have done better with kind of the period aspect of the movie. Yeah.
So I'm going to do a repeat of Wonder Woman 1984 for my number 2. We usually don't have repeats, but I want to talk about it again or more.
More detail.
And so, yeah. And again, 100% agree with everything Chris said. I liked the idea of Cheetah. And I feel like my overall review for Wonder Woman 1984 is I like the ideas of this movie. Just commit to fewer things better.
Yeah.
Is really what they needed to do. And I'll say, like, in terms of like a specific change, I guess spoilers for Wonder Woman 1984, don't see it. But
I watched the first 30 minutes and
yeah. And but there's the part where the wishing stone or whatever that thing is called, Wonder Woman makes the wish, brings back
whatever his name is, Chris Pine.
Yeah, Chris Pine. Gets really into the ethical nature of that they should have just also, not done. But that's a whole, that's a whole other thing. But like the exchange for it is that Wonder Woman starts to lose her powers, which in a movie about a strong female hero, like taking away, taking that away and then not really having a good, like it's one of those, it's almost the opposite of the, one of the things that we discussed in the Falcon and Winter Soldier with John Walker, where it's like, there was never any doubt that she wasn't going to give up Chris Pine, get her powers back, save the day. And there was just no suspense to that. So why take away her powers? It was one of those that I think that there's a lot of the scenes that maybe even this kind of falls back to the same thing with The Last Airbender, where like, even if the movie was plot wise just as bad, if the movie just looked cooler because you didn't take away one of the things that makes your main character cool, I feel like there'd be stuff that would be a lot more forgivable, again, except for the Chris Pine body swap thing. But like, but yeah, so that's Wonder Woman 1984 for me. Steve something. Too many Steves, too many Chris's. There should only be one Chris, and that's Hemsworth.
Yes. I can get behind that one.
Emma, what is your number 3?
My number 3 is mostly one that I'm just like, I don't know how this got greenlit ever to begin with. And that's the Emoji Movie.
What would you change? Don't.
I would go back in time and just tell the poor script reader person to pass it along and told them, please don't. This belongs in the trash. And that's that. I have nothing else to say.
Just throw it away.
Don't. Don't.
Stop it.
Don't do it. You're gonna lose everything.
Okay, Chris, what do you got?
I don't know, actually. I don't have a third. I was trying to think of one, but I just can't think of one.
Sure. And Deanna, Emma's was the Emoji Movie. So
just don't.
Just don't. Just don't.
Just don't.
So my last one, I feel like, again, ties in with this theme of do fewer things better. And it's Iron Man 3. Yeah. And so I've said this on the podcast a few times. All three of us guested on Comics and Lacrosse, and we did like a phase 2 review when we guested on that. And one of the things that I said during that was the first like hour and 20 minutes of Iron Man 3 is one of the best MCU movies ever made. And then there is this hard pivot where they reveal that the Mandarin Juke, that what's the person's name? I pulled it up. That Ben Kingsley's character is not the Mandarin. Instead, he's this guy pretending to be the Mandarin.
He's just an actor hired.
Yeah, he's just an actor. And it's one, like, again, it just don't. Like,
just don't.
I feel like they either should have not set up the Mandarin, or even if Ben Kingsley's character was not the Mandarin, don't have the Juke be that there was the I had the name ready to go. That Aldrich Killian's character is the obvious bad guy. Like, that was one that, like, I feel like that Juke completely shifted the tone of the movie from this super interesting look at like PTSD and the effects of like the Battle of New York on a normal human who is admittedly extremely smart, but like, we're not talking Thor, who's literally been fighting for the past 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Like, and it's just like that hard pivot away from the whole tone of that first half into this like more happy-go-lucky film. And like, I feel like if that just wasn't there, the movie would have been a whole lot better. So yeah, Iron Man 3. So
they used some work.
Yeah, definitely used some work. In chat, we got several call outs as we were going along, a lot of hard agrees from people. Deanna had called the Percy Jackson one before you got back to it, Emma. So when you were talking about Aragon, she had already called out Percy Jackson and was ready for that.
Something we can agree on.
Yeah. I've only seen the second Percy Jackson movie.
I haven't seen any of them.
There's a second one?
Yeah.
I think so. To be
Clearly,
fair,
I was so traumatized by the
Yeah.
first one that I just sort of never touched it again.
yeah. Then we got some.
They're also making a musical, which is just horrifying.
Huh.
He's just raking in the money at this point,
Interesting.
getting all the cash.
There was some other movie I saw that I wanted to call out. Deanna says Wonder Woman 2 was disappointing and too long. Yes, commit to fewer things. And then, oh man, I thought I saw the Angry Birds movie is another call out that we got. And so, but yes. But yeah, so those are the ones that we got from chat. Listeners, as always, let us know your picks. What are 3 changes or changes that you would make to 3 movies to make them better? We can do that comment section, social media, any of that stuff. And so, and we'll continue some of this discussion over in our post-show chat.
I just thought of another top 3 concept that's the complete opposite of this. What 3 movies or TV shows would you like to have worked on?
Ooh.
Or would you like to future tense work on?
None.
Okay, Chris,
fine.
I don't like group
that's
projects.
Literally just a me question then.
I'm good with that. I really like that one. But we're gonna save that for when I'm back.
Yes.
So next week, as I mentioned earlier, Anna Reel will be back. And kind of to tie in with it being May 3rd, as well as the release of new Pokemon Snap. The top 3 will probably have something to do with Star Wars or Pokemon.
We're going to pick, you're going to be telling us your favorite type and the top 3 of that type.
Okay.
Great. That's super easy.
Yes.
And so we're talking Pokemons. And Emma, if ever in doubt, it's always Mewtwo.
That means your favorite type has to be Psychic.
Nope. My favorite type is Mewtwo.
It's Mewtwo.
Y'all do realize I grew up with Pokemon,
Number 1,
right?
Mewtwo. Number 2, Mewtwo. Number 3, Mewtwo.
I do understand Pokemon. It was one of the only games I played on repeat for years because I only had a Game Boy Advance SP, so I would play Leaf Green and Emerald or whatever.
Essentially, the question is, if you were a gym leader,
games like 10 times over the course of my life.
I did not know. I thought your oh no was you had not played Pokemon.
And no, are you kidding? I've played when I say I've played so much Pokemon, I mean it's literally the little like Game Boy Advance SP games. Like I have played a lot of Pokemon over the course of my life.
Nice.
But limited to the earlier generations. But I do have a solid grasp on the franchise. So courtesy of my parents finally giving into our various pleas for some sort of gaming device.
So next week, top 3 Pokemon, top 3 pokes of that type. And then we'll also, of course, still be back Thursday for book club. And as always, listeners, you can let us know the changes you would make over on our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of those things as One Geek 411. You can join our Discord server or send us an email. You can also check out the merch store at Redbubble. And then you can watch live, twitch.tv/OneGeek411, and check out the YouTube as well. You can rate and subscribe wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. And then you can also check out our show notes on onegeek411.com. Then if you want to reach out to us personally, you can do that through our personal social medias. Mine is Humar Whittle.
Mine is I am not prepared with an I in the prepared.
And I'm not so foreign.
And it's been a great week.
Wash your hands.
For Shanine, read Seraphine, or read a book specifically, parenthesis, Serafina.
By
And
Thursday.
by Thursday. Um, and then also